Hello and welcome back to Super High Roller Bowl 5. I am joined by Isaac Haxton for another edition of Run It Back with Remko. We have an interesting hand, tens versus ace-king, Seth Davies versus Isaac Haxton. Ike, first of all, would you classify this as an interesting hand?
Yeah, I think so. I think I had several close decisions in there, or at least two. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it was a bit of a struggle bus, but Ike settles on a check.
Okay.
Renders it the optimal choice and takes down an over half.
Way to be
million
pesky,
chip
Ike.
bet.
So let's go through the hand. Let's start at the beginning and walk us through your thought process.
Sure. Justin opens under the gun, either 6 or 7-handed. I'm in the cutoff, if I recall correctly, and like over 100 big blinds deep with him. I 3-bet with tens, which I think can go either way. I could also just call. Doesn't matter that much. This time I 3-bet. Seth ends up cold 4-betting out of the big blind. Justin folds back on me. I think I have a pretty clear call. Shoving, nothing very good is going to happen. And he made it reasonably small. Folding's pretty out of the question.
Is that a standard situation to call there, or is it also based on the opponent? Like, do you think that versus Seth or versus someone else, you might change your mind?
I think it's a pretty standard situation. I would have to think my opponent was making some sort of pretty big mistake to do something other than just call there.
And let's take us through the flop and the turn, because obviously it gets a lot more exciting on the river.
Sure. The flop comes Jack 5-2 Rainbow, and he c-bets on the bigger side. I believe it was 80 into 200. And at this point, I'm already hating my hand. He mostly has pairs, jacks or better, ace-king, and a handful of bluffs pre-flop. So if he bets the flop with all of that stuff, I'm even still not in a fantastic situation. I think folding is on the table, but probably a little bit too tight. I also considered raising. I did use a time bank there, and I think raising is okay. It would basically be with the plan of, make it 180 and then don't put any further money in. And I think that's a fine plan, but it's not what I ended up doing this time. Yeah.
Yeah, because on the turn, of course, it gets even more interesting, and that sort of slowly brings us to the river.
Yep. The turn it was Jack 5 Deuce, turn 3, putting up a flush draw, if I recall correctly. Yeah. He bets again, this time for 100 into 360. It's kind of the same thing as the flop. He mostly has better hands, but he's betting pretty small, and I think it can really go either way. Raising's off the table at this point, but I could call or I could fold. This time I decided to call. I think it's worth very close to 0, but this time I decided to call.
And then on the river, which I alluded to already, the most interesting part to me was the fact that it gets checked to you, and then you go into the tank. You even use a time extension. Was it a real consideration there to turn your hand to a bluff?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was thinking about. I think it would have been a pretty bad play. I'm glad I ended up making the decision I did. It was worth using a time bank to not screw that one up. Those spots can be pretty tricky where there's like a lot less than pot to play on the river, and everything gets there, and yeah, I think I have enough ace-king to bluff with, and like maybe tens with a spade, but yeah, I think my hand is not weak enough and not good enough at blocking things he could call with for me to bluff it.
All right, that is Ike Haxton still going strong as we're getting closer to the final table of Super High Roller Bowl 5. Stay tuned to Poker Central for more coverage.